Republican Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. First and foremost, congratulations on your reelection last week. I want to start asking you about John Thune as Senate Majority Leader. You endorsed him for Majority Leader. I found it interesting that a number of Republicans endorsed Rick Scott, including some like Elon Musk, who slammed Thune by calling him a top choice for Democrats. What did you make of that?
Well, Elon Musk has never been in the United States Senate. I don't know that he knows John Thune or John Cornyn or Rick Scott or how many senators he knows. But one thing about senators, we all got elected as well as everybody else, right? And we all have our own responsibilities, and we have these personal relationships. We know everybody very well. I don't think senators are easily persuaded by somebody that doesn't have, that's not a constituent. And Elon Musk is an entertaining fellow, and I appreciate his willingness to step out there and express himself. I applaud it. I even enjoy it. But I don't think it's real persuasive with senators who I've not met my first wimpy senator, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it comes, Senator, from a place of apprehension among those who see themselves as MAGA acolytes about someone like Senator Thune, because he's seen as someone who's criticized Donald Trump in the past. And so there's some apprehension there, specifically on the potential for dissent when it comes to appointments to Trump's cabinet. We heard Thune say that he would do everything possible to get Donald Trump's picks through. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the potential to see recess appointments to get folks through, folks like Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm starting with Pete Hegseth. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, and I'm going to do everything I can to have a successful Pete Hegseth, hearing and to get a markup and pass them the old-fashioned way. And the reason it's important, I think, that we do everything we can, Boris, within the advice and consent responsibility of the Senate, as per, by the way, the Constitution, is that I think it makes for stronger secretaries. If you go in to run the Department of Defense and you have the backing of the United States Senate and the President of the United States, it's much better than a recess appointment. Having said that, a recess appointment is valid. It can be done, it has been done to great effect in previous administrations. However, the first thing we need to do, and when we have a united government like this, when you have a Senate and a President on the same page, and we are, I think it's much better if we just get to the job quickly, stay late, stay through longer weeks, and confirm as many of these people as we can with the full advice and consent of the United States Senate.
Senator, despite your enthusiasm for Hegseth, he is seen as somewhat of an unorthodox and controversial pick, given his previous statements about women in combat. Also, reporting that's indicated that he has been a driving force in Donald Trump pardoning people who have been accused and suspected of war crimes. I wonder if you agree with him on the idea that women should not be serving in combat roles in the U.S. Armed Forces, and whether you think getting him confirmed is going to be an uphill battle.
I don't, Boris. I mean, there are going to be policy disagreements here and there for sure, but I think that most Republicans, and frankly a lot of Democrats, and I know Republicans have supported Democratic nominees that they didn't agree with because they think that's the president's prerogative and they want to respect that as much as they can. In the case of Pete, this is like the perfect face of peace through strength, and somebody who, as a warrior, has gotten his hands dirty in battle. That carries a lot of weight, and it ought to. Now, he's going to need a lot of help around him. Obviously, a great leader surrounds himself with even greater people, and that's what I would advise him to do. But no, I think Pete can get at least the 53 Republicans to vote for him, and maybe some more. The sins of the past, I think we're well past that being a disqualifier anymore for public office, and rightfully so. Everybody likes a redemption story.
I'm also curious about your thoughts for DNI. As you were speaking, Senator, I got word from my producer that President-elect Trump has announced his choice of former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence. She's also a controversial figure, someone who's been accused of being a Russian asset Are you comfortable with her and her track record having access to some of the nation's most sensitive secrets?
Well, first of all, Tulsi and I were classmates in the House. I know her pretty well. She's also a warrior. She has donned the uniform. And frankly, as a member of the House of Representatives, Tulsi had access to the deepest secrets in the country as well. And by the way, the only thing she had to do to earn that was get more votes than her opponent. It's kind of a funny system that we have here. But having said all of that, I think once again Tulsi is an illustration of peace through strength, with an understanding, a populist view, a MAGA view, if you will, that I think is what the American people elected. She's very articulate. She knows who the enemy is. I have full faith in her, and I think most of my colleagues in the United States Senate will. And frankly, I think when you take Tulsi and Pete and Mike Waltz as the National Security Advisor, you're seeing the picture. This is a president who wants to deter the enemy, not simply by better weapon systems, but by attitude and by reputation. Kristi Noem, frankly, for DHS, similarly. You might argue about particular experiences or credentials, if you will, but at the end of the day, they're all strong leaders who I think represent that peace through strength attitude, not just a weapon system. And I think it's a perfect picture of what Donald Trump, I think, has been talking about throughout the campaign.
Senator, I have one more question for you about how certain generals might fit into the picture that you're describing, because the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump is weighing this executive order that would establish a warrior board to review high-ranking generals and their fitness for service. The Trump campaign was asked about this. They didn't deny that it was being considered. In your mind, what would be the criteria to determine the fitness of certain generals for service? And are there any 3- or 4-star generals that you believe are currently unfit to serve?
So I know a lot of 3- and 4-star generals, obviously being on the Armed Services Committee. I don't know of any that are unfit. At least I don't know why they would be unfit. I get that there's this woke thing going on in our military, but I don't blame the generals for that. Generals, even a 4-star general, salutes up to the Secretary, who salutes up to the Secretary of Defense, who salutes up to the President of the United States. I think blaming political policy positions and decisions on the generals is the wrong direction. Having said that, the president has a prerogative. If he sees somebody that he doesn't like, or he puts some criteria forward that they don't meet, he can fire people. The idea of putting a board together, I think, sends a bit of a wrong message to the generals and frankly to those warriors that would aspire to become a general. So I'd caution him on that. But having said that, again, he's the commander in chief. What I'd rather do is I'd rather have him personally, or his pick to be Secretary of Defense, to talk to the generals themselves, ask pointed questions about their views on DEI and ESG, but to blame, for example, an admiral for the attitude of the Secretary of the Navy, Secretary Del Toro, I think is grossly unfair. On the one hand, you have a guy who thinks that climate change is more important than China as a threat. You just can't reconcile that, I don't think, with somebody who's actually wearing the uniform. So I'm not going to judge that. I would just caution the president. The other thing is, it also wanders a little bit over into a separation of powers issue with me. Generals are confirmed by the United States Senate after they've been recommended by the leadership, again, up the ladder. Let's get the Republican Senate in place and the House in place, and let's get President Trump in place and start working on those things, in a more somewhat traditional way, if you will. And I think you're going to find that we have a lot of great generals that have been poisoned, if you will, in reputation by the people that they salute up to.
Senator Kevin Cramer, we appreciate you sharing your point of view with us. Thanks for the time.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Boris.
Thanks. Still to come, Donald Trump is back in the White House. Less than 4 years ago,